Hi, welcome to iPad SIM Shop. I'd like to introduce you to the MicroSIM adapter. This adapter has been out since probably around April-May time, and this particular one is made by Noosy Apple. And these guys you can find them on www.noosyapple.com, and that's their OEM website where they do all their marketing. And of course, if you wanted to go on there and buy it off of them, you may have to buy in quantity, so it may not be worth it if you're looking for one or two. But here it is. No need to pay for double data fees. Use one SIM card on all devices. So convenient. One step is okay. Now, I wanted to unpackage this for you guys. You can see it's beautiful green, sort of a lime green packaging. I take it out of here. I'm going to just set this packaging on the side here. Here's the card that it sits in. I'm going to take it out of here for you guys. A little bit of glue there to hold it in place, and show you the official Noosy adapter. Now, a couple of nice adapter, very lightweight, of course, all adapters are. Yellow color, not a whole lot to be said. But what you'll notice is a little membrane here, a little piece of plastic, and if I turn it to its side and hold it really close, that piece of plastic actually bubbles up. And I want to mention to you guys the pros and cons of this particular MicroSIM in a moment here. But this particular plastic was designed to hold the MicroSIM in place. However, because of its bubbly design, it actually sometimes acts as a spring. And it's made such that it doesn't always sit flush in a device. So to kind of demonstrate how this thing sits, if I set it down like so, and I sort of press on either side, notice how this particular MicroSIM adapter will lift. Okay, see that? That's because this thing does not sit flush. All right, and the reason it doesn't sit flush, as I mentioned, is because the way it's been designed, the way it's been injection molded, this real particular thin part of plastic is it bubbles up, it warps, and when it warps, it causes the thing not to sit flat. That can be harmful to your cell phone, folks. Be very, very careful when deciding upon a MicroSIM adapter. Now, its cousin, I should say, its predecessor, is this particular one, and this one was first introduced to us on the internet as a German MicroSIM adapter by a company called MicroSIM-Shop.com. They still sell these MicroSIMs on there, except it takes a long time to receive, and they actually sell them for the end user. You can buy one at a time, you can buy 5 at a time, but notice the design work. Notice the craft. As you can see, no hole. No plastic plate or no plastic membrane there. And the reason being is because those Germans, being as smart as they are sometimes, figured out that in order for you to, here's a close-up, in order for you to design one of these things, you've got to have a pretty slick design, and as they do, and you've got to make sure that you don't have this particular membrane acting as a spring and popping your SIM card out of place. And you'll notice here in a second, as I do this, as I put a MicroSIM in there, you will notice how this thing holds a MicroSIM in place, and versus its competitor Noosy. Here's a close-up look of the Noosy. As you can see, there's that bubble at the top, how the plastic bubbles up. Here's I guess a bottom view, I want to say, and just by the way the light shines through here, you can see that plastic may not be as good as quality as they claim it is. But what I'd like to do is I'd like to bring somebody else to the party. This is actually a cut MicroSIM, and we cut these in-house, and we use a very special cutter, not the ones that you would find online. We actually have this cutter designed for us, and as you can see, a little camera focus here. As you can see, very clean lines. The reason why is because this MicroSIM, cut from a big SIM, was cut with 800 pounds per square inch of pressure, much more than the average MicroSIM cutter that you find online for $20. This cutter was quite expensive. So, as you can see, this is a cut MicroSIM by a T-Mobile microSIM that was pre-cut. And so when I pop this into the adapter, I want you to see, of course, how this thing sits. Okay, this is a microSIM. I'm going to put one in place, and now let's see. See if we can get this thing to sit. Oh, come on, sit. There it is. As you can see, when I flip this thing over, it doesn't sit very flat. And the reason I say that is because you can barely see it, but there's a shadow underneath the circle, which means it's not sitting flat. And to give you just a quick demonstration, if I just barely, I mean, see, you can see it's coming out. See that? I didn't even touch it here. Let me just pop it back into place. See, I'll pop it back into place. Comes right out. See that? Yep, and it popped right out of there. That's because the design of these adapters are such that they were designed for inexpensive reproduction, and that's understandable. But people don't always want to take a chance with their microSIMs. So again, a German company introduced these back, I want to say in November of 2009 was when these were introduced. They were actually introduced even before the microSIMs themselves were introduced. And the reason why is because they knew they were coming out, and therefore they had to come up with a really fancy, cool design that worked. So they had some time to work on these. And I want to show you how this T-Mobile microSIM, yes, it was cut, but it was cut to precise size. And to give you guys just an idea of how accurate these particular microSIMs are, I'd like to show you real quick. Well, don't have one here with me, but I was going to show you guys an official microSIM from AT&T. Of course, I don't have one with me to show you, but nevertheless, these are exact size. Trust me on this. I'm a professional. So if I were to take this guy here and I were to set it in place, and I were to snap, first of all, notice how loud that snap is. Very loud snap. And the reason why you want a loud snap is because you want this thing to sit in place. And as you can see, I hold it up like so, and there is no gaps at all. It's sitting very, very flush, okay? And what I can do with this is I can hold this thing, and I can tell you right now, this thing will never pop out like the way the Noosy popped out on its own, or it popped out from the Noosy. This will never pop out from this adapter. And to prove it to you, I brought a BlackBerry. And the reason I bought a BlackBerry is because I wanted to squeeze this thing in a very small chamber. Now, if I were to use for instance, an iPhone, anything will pass the iPhone test. And that's because the iPhone sits in a tray. Here, I'll just back up this for you guys here in a second. Let me just back it up for you. Here's a BlackBerry. This is an AT&T BlackBerry. I believe it's an 8900. And watch as I insert this particular microSIM adapter into the slot. Notice how it fits. Okay, you might be saying to yourself, well, that's not really that big of a deal. But actually, in all reality, it is a big deal. And I'll tell you why it's a big deal. Because this thing sits, it's machined so perfectly, and it sits so perfectly that your microSIM card is not going to fall out of there and get stuck. Okay? Now, you might say, well, that's not a big deal. Well, it hasn't happened to you then. So therefore, you don't think it's a big deal. But notice, as I sort of lift and pull this out of here. All right, come on. Okay. Notice that the thing stays intact. I had to bend it a little bit. So yeah, you see how it came up? Well, I'll bend it back in place. There it is. Notice how it stays intact. Now, what you don't want to happen is you don't want to yank this thing out of your phone device and all you get's this. Because if that happens and this is stuck in your device, such as an iPhone, wouldn't ruin it too bad over here. But if this thing got stuck in your iPhone, it wouldn't be fun. So there you have it, folks. The precise German-made microSIM adapter. Get yourself one of these, folks. They are the best in the business. Thanks for listening.